Today, we're talking about the three things that get tested in midlife, whether you're ready or not: your systems, your body, and your assumptions. This episode was sparked 1 week after I officially became in my 40s, when I threw out my back in a very humbling, very rural way, right in the middle of December, of course, when family and work demands are already at their peak. But this conversation isn't really about turning 41 or even getting injured. It's about what happens when life stress tests are set up and whether what you've built actually supports you when things don't go according to plan. If you listen to episode 67, where we talked about how burnout sneaks up on high performers, think of this as your next chapter, when what happens after burnout actually gets your attention. Let's get into it. Hey friend, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. Today, we're going to talk about the three things that get tested in midlife, whether you're ready or not. Your systems, do they work for you or only because of you? Your body, are you listening or muscling through it? And then your assumptions, are you operating on facts or fears? So let me set the stage. I used to give my husband Richard and my trainer Dana the hardest time because they'd say something anytime we were working out, like, this is why we're injured. This is why you're getting hurt. This is why it's hard. You're in your 40s. And I'd always laugh and be like, no, what? No, no, I'm not in my 40s. I'm only 40. It's not until I turn 41 that I'm officially in my 40s. Y'all, I'll be darned if exactly to the day, a week after I turned 41 and was officially in my 40s, that I got an epic old lady injury, like threw out my back, completely debilitating. And of course, it happened right in the crux of December craziness when the family and the household needs and work needs are all skyrocketing. And it was just like the confluence of all kinds of chaos. So while unfortunately I'm still very much a solopreneur with a very small support team and kind of missed the boat on some of those Q4 opportunities, can't really do anything about that. But thankfully, one of the boundaries I am absolutely steadfast about practicing is not overcommitting in December. Essentially, like, that is my opportunity to give myself some breathing room because it's already a hectic season. So for many moms, you stack commitments on top of an already full seasonal calendar, and then January comes around and you're like, holy crap, I just took time off. Why the heck am I depleted? Like, that's the kind of thing I'm trying to hedge against. I will go to my Charlotte Besties cookie exchange, and I love that. But otherwise, I don't leave the house. I am a believer that December is already hectic enough for moms, and I'm just not trying to layer onto that with pressure to do other things. I am also like obsessive over Christmas and the Holly Jolly Elf, and I just kind of want to be able to sit in my house and be able to enjoy that season and all of the hard work that I put into it. So that helped me here. But this episode isn't about turning 41, and it's not about me throwing out my back. Instead, it's about what happens when your system, your body, and your assumptions all get tested at the same time. Okay, so the punchline is my support system saved me. I spent a ton of hours across that 3.5 week period, completely debilitated. Not only that, I had a lot of extra responsibilities that were layered onto it relating to caring for my back. Doctor appointments, multiple trips to the pharmacies, all of the exercises and PT I was doing. It just took up a lot of time. And thankfully, that ended up not being a problem for me. But most of us don't realize how fragile our ecosystem, our support setup is, though, until we're sick or we're injured or we're incredibly overwhelmed. Yet, the beautiful thing is, because I'd put my own life management system into place, I had confidence that the presents were going to be wrapped for the boys, the food was going to get made for hosting, the house was going to be ready for hosting. And it's all because of the intentional delegation that I put in place. I outsource a lot to my house manager, to the person who does our cooking, our cleaning team. And this is not big money stuff, guys. It comes across like it is. I get it. But part of the mastery that I help with my clients is helping them figure out exactly how you can delegate, whether it be outsourcing or not, very effectively, very efficiently, and for very low cost. I also had done things like working out ahead of time, who was going to pick up my boys and when from flag football, and all of these other things that just helped foundationally build a system that works for me, not because of me. And I think that's the kicker for most women is if your systems are working only because of you, it's not a system. If you have to remove yourself from it, it should be working regardless. You should never be a single point of failure. And that was one of the things that I really got to see demonstrated is my back did not start feeling better until the week of Christmas, like the actual week, multiple days before Christmas. But it was fine. And everything happened despite me being out of commission. Okay, the second lesson, your body keeps score. Unfortunately, right? So, starting a business is way more humbling than I ever expected. I am thinking about this business 18 hours a day. It's my addiction. And it's just frankly really hard to concentrate on anything else. But what has happened over time, in addition to the pressure of performing, there has been this slow tension that's been building up in my back until the fatigue and the tension finally caught up with me. So, because I'm religious, I'm taking that as God's sign that He's saying, like, girlfriend, you need to slow down. But even if you aren't, remember that your body keeps score. So any stress or tension or fatigue you're letting creep in will, I promise you, catch up with you. It will. So maybe your stress is hiding in a tight jaw or shallow breathing, or maybe your sign is you're chronically poor sleeper, or you're like constantly feeling some sort of urgency, or maybe that's you're getting sick all the time. Unfortunately, though, your body doesn't tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, girl, it's me. Like, you need to take care of me. Eventually, it just, full on pulls up the emergency brake. And I promise you, it never happens at a convenient time. I mean, it's just kind of the law of it. It's never going to happen at a convenient time. So, when your calendar has no margin, what accepts that margin is your body. And that's not fair. And then the third big lesson I had is around anxiety. So if you're ever anxious about something, just ask. That's it. It's that simple. Assuming leaves you unproductively spinning and like causing all this tension, even if you don't think it is. And that's exactly what happened to me. My grandmother, her name was JoJo. She was essentially my favorite human of all time. But she used to tell me, worrying's like a rocking chair, Courtney. It gives you something to do and doesn't get you anywhere. So how many of us are carrying this stress because we never actually called a timeout to ask the question? So in my circumstance, Richard and I were both carrying a good bit of tension relative to this business and how the decision of me deciding to leave corporate was ultimately going to impact our finances and our long-term retirement plans. It was a risk that we were naturally willing to take. That's why I'm here. But we were both carrying this invisible tension because we were unclear on the impact. And then we finally had a meeting with our financial advisor. It was the regularly scheduled quarterly one. And we heard the message of, yeah, we're going to make some small sacrifices along the way. But all in all, we're going to be just fine. And hearing that message and seeing those numbers put in front of us brought instant relief. So while I know that I need to slow down and I know that I need to care for my body as it ages, like that's something I should be a little bit more diligent about. I also know how much stress that Richard and I were carrying regarding how this decision is going to impact us. And all we had to do was ask the question earlier instead of assuming or instead of worrying, and it would have brought that instant peace of mind. So if I could go back 6 months, I certainly wouldn't have waited for my body to force myself to slow down. I would have protected my sleep earlier. I would have stretched daily and I would have asked that financial question sooner. So this is exactly why I am so passionate about systems and boundaries and intentional planning because life doesn't warn you when it's about to test you. So what is your body asking for that you've been ignoring? Where are you assuming, like I was, instead of asking? And if you had to be horizontal for, gosh, I was there for 3 weeks, what in your life is going to fall apart? Hopefully, unlike me, you don't need an injury to learn to slow down. You're allowed to choose a sustainable life before your body forces it. Because my wish for you is not to prove how much you can carry, but instead to build a life that carries you back. So, friend, I hope this is something that benefited you from listening. But until next time, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You got this, mama. If this episode resonated, I want to invite you to watch episode 67, Why Burnout Sneaks Up on High Performers. Because what I shared today is exactly what happens when burnout goes unaddressed long enough for your body, your systems, or your assumptions to force a pause. This episode was about what it looks like when life puts those lessons into motion. And that episode will help you understand why you get here. But before you go, I'll leave you with this. You don't need an injury or a breakdown or a crisis to choose sustainability. You're allowed to build a life that supports you before your body actually demands it. Thanks for being here, friend. I'll see you inside episode 67.